and gentlemen, esteemed academic experts, a warm greeting to you all. It's a privilege to gather for the 36th installment of our esteemed inaugural lecture series organized by the Faculty of Graduate Studies at the University of Moratuwa. To formally begin today's proceedings, it's my distinct honor to invite Professor Dinesh Samadasinghe at University of Moratuwa to introduce our distinguished guest speaker for the day.
Good afternoon, everyone. May I have the permission of the audience to introduce Professor Darshana Mudalige as the inaugural speaker of the today's inaugural Professor Series speech. Professor Darshana Mudalige was a member of the Faculty of Business. He joined the Faculty of Business 2009 if I can remember correct. He joined the Department of Management of Technology as a lecturer probationary. Then he was promoted to senior lecturer in 2017 in the Faculty of Business when the Faculty of Business was formed. Then if I introduce his education, he is a product of University of Moratuwa. He is having honors degree in Materials Science Engineering from the University of Moratuwa in 2005. Then he completed his Master of Business Administration degree in International Business from Edith Cowan University in Australia in 2012. And he got his Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Utara, Malaysia under the thesis title of Internationalization of Small and Medium Enterprises, a Dynamic Capability-Based Perspective in 2017. Therefore, Professor Mudalige is having extensive knowledge about international entrepreneurship. This is a very demanding area in Sri Lanka as well as in other countries. Then, if I talk about Dr. Mudalige, Professor Dr. Mudalige, before he joined University of Moratuwa, he was working as a research engineer at the Industrial Technology Institute, ITI. If I look at his contribution to the Faculty of Business, he is the currently acting head of the Department of Management of Department of Industrial Management, as well as he is the director UGS of the Faculty of Business. He's having multiple hats. He's having a significant contribution for the Faculty of Business, especially when the Faculty of Business was formed in 2017. He was a founding member of the Faculty of Business, joined from the Department of Management of Technology. Further, he, as the HOD of the IM department in 2018, he contributed to develop financial services management specialization. This is something about his academic contribution and administrative contribution to the University of Moratuwa at large. Then Professor Mudalige is a good researcher as well. If you look at his Google research profile, Google Scholar profile, he's having more than 190 citations with an H index of 5 at the moment. He's having more than 25 peer-reviewed journal published articles. He's having Q1 publication as well, if I can remember correct. He's having a publication in the International Journal of Entrepreneurship as well. In addition, he's having presented more than 50 academic papers in conferences, both locally and international reputed conferences. Further, he's a sort of a consultant as well. In addition to his academic contribution, he's a consultant into the industry, covering different areas, including entrepreneurship, industrial management, allied areas. Then Professor Mudalige is having significant knowledge about the application of international entrepreneurship. Today he's going to deliver something about his international entrepreneurship research and findings in this inaugural lecture series. Then Professor Mudalige can be a very important resource to the Faculty of Business as well as to the University of Moratuwa to improve the entrepreneurship knowledge and the applications in the Sri Lankan context. Then may I invite you to make the inaugural speech, Professor Mudalige. Over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you very much for the kind introduction, Professor Dinesh. I'm going to deliver the inaugural lecture series. So before that, I want to thank my parents and my family members who were behind me, so that I could concentrate on my career development. So I thank my parents and my family members. And I also would like to thank the Faculty of Business staff members, especially the senior staff, Professor Sarath Dasanayak and Professor Vatsala Wickramasinghe, who were there whenever I had a problem, who advised me on the career path. So I'm really thankful to them, and all my peers and my colleagues and all the subordinates and everyone I worked at University of Moratuwa. I'm thankful to them. So it was not a difficult, it was a really difficult journey actually. So I was able to achieve these things because of their support. So I'm going to talk about international entrepreneurship. I'm going to focus a little bit on the applications of international entrepreneurship rather than discussing the theories in detail. So my first part of my presentation is going to be focusing on the theories, frameworks, and norms related to the international trade and business. So we are going to discuss about a few theories and how they are applied in the international context. So second part of my presentation is basically to identify the patterns and the path of international entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. So there we are going to identify how we have done with respect to the exports, how we have done with respect to the entrepreneurship activities, especially concentrating on Sri Lanka and also the whole world. Third part of the presentation, I will try to give suggestions based on my experience, based on my knowledge, and also from the feedback I got from the colleagues, everyone. So the recommendations which I believe would promote international entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. So those are the three areas that I'm going to focus today. So coming to the focus area one, discussing the theories, frameworks, and norms related to the international trade and business. We all understand how important it is. Actually, nowadays, international trade and international business has become a way to show their strength, the superpowers, and also to undermine the enemy. So they are using this one as a battlefield. So this shows how important it is for the whole world, this international entrepreneurship activity and also the international trade and business. It's a new way to fight and new way to show the powers. So when we talk about international entrepreneurship, there are a few concepts that we have to understand. First is the concept international entrepreneurship and the process of internationalization of firms. And then we will discuss the theories of internationalization. So what is international entrepreneurship? So international entrepreneurship is about developing entrepreneurship activities across national borders. So entrepreneurship is basically about risk-taking, innovative and proactive behavior, right? So that's the definition of entrepreneurship in very simple terms. You are a risk taker, you are innovative, and you are proactive, and you sense the environmental changes before the others. So international entrepreneurship is basically about your scope is broader and you go into the international arena without any hesitation. So we actually talk about two types of entrepreneurship, global and international. So global entrepreneurs are people who from the very beginning of the startup think about the international business, right? From the day one, they think about how to go to the international market, how to capture the international customers. So that kind of mindset is there in global entrepreneurs. International entrepreneurs, on the other hand, go slowly. They first think about the domestic market, then gradually increase their international activities. So international new ventures are more related to the international entrepreneurship, where they gradually and by learning from the mistakes and learning from the experience, they go to the international market. But we also have something called born globals. Born globals are organizations who are at the day one think about the internationalization process. So actually, entrepreneurs create value in two different ways. So we call them convergence and divergence. Convergence is where the entrepreneurs take advantage of the commonalities or the common things that are found all over the world. So all over the world, people are, let's say, for example, people's likeness to sustainability, people's desire for sustainability, people's desire to behave ethically and value ethical aspects. So all these things are, we can say, global uh, scenarios. So these entrepreneurs try to take advantage of those global commonalities. On the other hand, countries are different. People are different. So sometimes the entrepreneur think about these differences and try to take advantage of those differences. So sometimes people like to buy low cost, not like, but sometimes they don't have the capacity to buy high end things. So they always go for the low cost products. Some people, because of the culture, certain aspects are limited. So likewise, we think about the differences and try to capture the advantages arising from these differences. So entrepreneurs can create value in both ways. Sometimes they can take advantage of the convergence, commonalities, or sometimes the differences, divergence. So internationalization can be defined in many ways. So internationalization was defined by Penrose in 1959 as the firms' core competencies and opportunities in the foreign environment. So in this situation, he argues that when firms think about their core competencies and how to adapt them to capture the opportunities in the foreign environment, that is the beginning of internationalization. So another definition, another popular definition is the process of adapting firms' operations to international environment. So when we say adapting the firm's operations, we believe they adapt their strategies, they find a new department in the organization, maybe exports department, maybe international department, they change their structures, they base their resources in some foreign country. So the structural differences can be there. So when they adapt those operations, that is called internationalization. Thirdly, Gibb argues that the internationalization is not just about exports or foreign direct investment. It is also related to inward aspects, inward activities. That means imports. So according to him, the process of increasing involvement in the international operations. So when somebody imports something, that is also part of internationalization because you are increasing your involvement in the international operations. So when we look at all these definitions, we can say we are talking about something related to international opportunities, commitment, increasing the commitment in the international market, and adapting yourself to the international environment. So basically, internationalization is combination of these three aspects. So we have to look why organizations want to go to international market. Why can't they just satisfy with the domestic market? So according to the literature, there are several reasons. One is the economies of scale that we all know. When you increase your production, the unit cost goes down, and therefore you are able to get more profits. And sometimes the home market is small, and you don't have sufficient customers in the home market. For example, in Swedish countries, this is the main reason for born global. So the market is too small. Sometimes organizations identify market opportunities in third world and developing countries. For example, dumping, the ability to produce and sell low quality products. So likewise, sometimes those are the reasons. Sometimes they want to access resources or production factors at a lower cost. And finally, it's the complex international political environment sometimes, support them to go to international market. For example, let's say bilateral free trade agreement would support them going to the international market. So very briefly, I will explain about the 4 theories of internationalization. First, the economic models. Very simply, economic models say that if you want to internationalize, there should be an advantage of internationalization which offset the additional risk. So whenever you are going to a foreign market, there is an additional risk, unknowns, uncertainties. So what is the advantage, economic advantage you have that would offset those what we call the factors? Then the Uppsala model says it's not just about the economic activities. Uppsala model talks about organization learning. So they say they always learn from their domestic activities, and using that knowledge, they try to go to the international market, and they normally select the countries with the least, they call it psychic distance. Psychic distance is they select the countries which are similar to your country. So gradually they internationalize. So gradually they learn and they expand their business. Network perspective talks about what we call a network of relationships, and they are involved or they are linked in a complex pattern. So when you know somebody, when you have a batchmate somewhere, when you, let's say, when you have your friends somewhere, when you have a colleague somewhere, so that is a network. So from that network, sometimes you get the business opportunity or the knowledge, and therefore that act as the catalyst for the internationalization. Finally, international entrepreneurship theory talks about that none of these things are valid. Internationalization is more explainable using entrepreneurship theories. So economic models of internationalization, the most popular one is the Dunning's paradigm. Dunning's paradigm says that firms' decision to internationalize and the mode of internationalization are based on economic advantages that we discussed. So he talks about 3 advantages. First one is the ownership advantage. So if you want to take the risk of going to a foreign country, doing foreign business, first thing, one thing that you should be careful, or one thing that you should pay attention to is whether you have an ownership advantage. That means, do you have something valuable that others don't have? It may be a brand name, it may be a critical access to resources or whatever. The second thing is, do you have advantage in the new location? It may be low cost advantage, it may be a special resource availability, it may be infrastructure quality, it may be a special government regulation, tax-free or lower interest rate, whatever. So do you have advantage in the new location? Third one is the internalization advantage, where they talk about what is the advantage of doing your business within a corporate entity versus outsourcing your businesses. So you want to do all the activities by yourself, or you want to get somebody else to do the activities. So depending on these 3 factors, he said they will select what is the most suitable way or the mode of internationalization. So ownership advantages, location advantage, and internalization advantages. So if you have, for example, ownership advantages, but you don't have any location advantage, but you have internalization advantage, firms will try to go for licensing. They won't go there and invest, but they will license somebody else to do their operations. So this is one way of explaining the internationalization process. Second model is Uppsala model, where they talk about experience-based learning. So as I discussed, so according to this one, the firms should go to the international market, or firms should internationalize to the countries which are having same characteristics, like same culture, same language, same technological level of development. So that should be the way of internationalization. So according to this model, internationalization starts from one market, mainly the domestic market, then gradually increases to similar market. Similar market means the markets with the least psychic distance. And also the mode of internationalization, or the what we call the activities, also increase gradually. So they first don't export, then they export randomly. Whenever you have excess capacity, they try to export. Then you have fixed export, then you go for a foreign sales subsidiary, then finally you go for a foreign production office or foreign production plant. So likewise, this this is kind of an incremental model where they think the internationalization happens with the experience. However, this is also criticized because of certain inefficiencies in the model. First one is Uppsala model in 1997. When they presented this one, they made it too deterministic. That means they thought this always happens like this. So it should be 100% explainable using this model. But unfortunately, in today's context, we understand it is not like that. So there are so many other factors affecting the internationalization process. And we find that today in high-tech industries and service industries, this kind of organizational learning process is not there. They just quickly go to the international market because of so many reasons and low window of opportunity. And the world has become more homogeneous, so the psychic distance has decreased. So we all know that world is becoming more and more homogeneous. So therefore, the concept of psychic distance has reduced. So because of these reasons, Uppsala model also doesn't 100% explain the internationalization process. The next internationalization model that we are going to talk about is the network theory. Network theory perspective of internationalization argues that the relationship quality and density, that means how many relationships that you have and the depth of that particular relationship, is the main mechanism of internationalization. So this corrects the problem with the Uppsala model, where they determine the internationalization just based on the psychic distance. So from this theory, we can argue that internationalization is not just based on psychic differences, but also when entrepreneurs develop relationships, when entrepreneurs have already developed relationships, that might support the internationalization process. So networking is seen as a source of market information and knowledge. So the relationships that the entrepreneurs have developed will help them to get valuable market information. Through networking, they also have access to distribution channels and finding trade partners. Helps to overcome the psychic distance that we discussed earlier. And through relationships, sometimes they may be able to access resources at a lower cost. International entrepreneurship is the next theory that is of importance. International entrepreneurship theory argues that internationalization from the point of inception of the organization is an entrepreneurial behavior related phenomena. An international live venture that is a startup that is focusing on internationalization from the very beginning, we define it as a young entrepreneurial firm that is virtually engaged in international business from the inception. So that is what is known as international live venture. In international entrepreneurship, we argue internationalization is purely based on entrepreneurial behavior, which is risk-taking, proactiveness, and the innovativeness. So those are the three characteristics that will affect internationalization process. To be competitive, you have to be large scale, but that is not true. Many other countries, small companies are contributing a lot. Third myth I want to highlight is that they say the exports are vulnerable to world political and economic conditions and variations. So it's natural that in economic turmoil or political turmoil, the exports will go down. But we have to understand that our problems do not come mainly due to this what we call crisis. This mainly comes from our export structure. So if you look at our export structure or the export profile, 52% of our export income comes from garments and tea. That is almost half. So half of our exports, we are relying on 2 products. And 50% of our export income is coming from Europe and USA. So that is again, half of the export income is reliant on 2 continents. So if you look at the export diversification by industry, you can see nothing much has changed from 1980 to 1990 to 2023. Tea still stands as their second most important export, whereas apparel and textiles have, that particular one still remains number one. So nothing much has changed, right? So it's basically the same. The only thing is some services sector coming in, so almost stagnant at the same level. So when you talk about the destination next diversification, again, we can see we are, if you count and add 50% of the exports are coming from North American and European region. So China and India contribute to about 10%. All the other countries, we almost have zero export. This has to be compared with the concentration index and HIH index of other countries. Sri Lanka is having a big problem. Diversification is very low. And you can see with this one, the last line, Sri Lanka's high-tech exports is only about 1% of the total export value, which is compared with other countries, they are much in front. And the other thing I want to highlight is that Sri Lanka is relying too much on tariff concessions, right? So our products are not really competitive, but we are competing, or we are going to the international market with the support of the tariff concessions. So we know there are 4 main tariffs enjoyed by Sri Lanka. SAFTA agreement. In SAFTA agreement, actually, there is a huge benefit, but still the benefit is not materialized because the countries maintain a very bulky what we call sensitive list, where they don't apply these tariff concessions. For example, Pakistan's sensitive list includes tea and garment, whereas tea and garment is our major export. So Pakistan says, no, we are not going to import tea and garment from Sri Lanka, but whereas our major export is tea and garment. So it doesn't make a big difference to our export profile. However, Indian free trade agreement, Indo-Sri Lanka agreement is having a much better impact because the tariff rates are zero. They are not reduced. They are, most of the product is zero. So some trade creation effect was identified, but still there is a huge amount of products in the sensitive list. Asia Pacific Free Trade Agreement is mainly for the countries Bangladesh, China, India, Laos, South Korea, and Sri Lanka. There also we had some advantage, especially for the spices and rubber products. And we all know the GSP Plus advantage. So GSP Plus is a special form of GSP given for 9 developing countries. So Sri Lanka enjoys, hopefully enjoys it until it becomes upper middle country, upper middle income country. So our exports are relying on these tariff concessions to a great extent. So if either of these are removed, the exports will be having a big, especially GSP plus. So my perception is that we are stuck in the middle. Sri Lanka find it difficult to compete on wages and the low cost advantage compared to Bangladesh, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, likewise. And also on the other hand, find it difficult to compete on productivity and competitiveness of the East Asian countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, those countries. So we are neither low-cost destination now or a kind of a competitive destination. So what to do? So if you look at the way forward, so these graphs would explain that in the long run, cost advantage is very unlikely for our country. For example, you can see the change of electricity bill, how quickly it has increased. You can see the exchange rate. You can see the land housing prices, how they have escalated. You can see the construction material cost. You can see the minimum wages, how quickly they have increased. So any entrepreneur thinking that they can get a low-cost advantage from by doing business in Sri Lanka and exporting to some other country, they would have to think twice, because a low-cost as a low-cost destination is very unlikely that they will succeed. And there are so many other low-cost leadership strategy. I mean, major risk of following the low-cost leadership strategy. One is it can be easily imitated. You can see what Pakistan has done for the ready-made garments, and the Bangladesh, they have quickly gained the knowledge of the value chain. They have quickly gained the learning, and they are quickly moving. So, for example, Bangladesh ready-made garment sector is moving so fast. It's very difficult to catch up with them. And for the tea, Kenya and Nigeria, they have learned, they have got the advantage. So you can see Kenya's tea exports increased from about 500 to 600, but our exports reduced from 295 to 245. So our tea exports is reducing. Kenya and Nigeria quickly catching up with good quality tea, especially flavored tea. Likewise, they differentiate. So it's very unlikely that we will get any advantage there. So I believe that the only way forward is to differentiate our exports and go for a differentiation strategy. We all know how we can differentiate our products. We have to think innovative manner. So how we can add value to our exports. It may be new product feature or unique product features, superior product performance, or exceptional service, or a new technology that we can develop, maybe in-house, maybe some local technology, we don't know. Especially we can think about wellness products like Ayurvedic products, exports, so anything, maybe local technology, but we have to think about new ways of coming out of this trap. So to look at the emerging technologies, you can see these are some of the new emerging technologies, IoT, green or sustainability aspects, nanotechnology, genetic engineering, blockchain, 3D printing, robotics, all these things are having a huge amount of what we call investment value in the future. So if we can start now and think how we can capture some of these technologies and train our people, give knowledge to our people, then sometimes by 2030, we can improve a little bit. So we have to capture and go with the new technologies as quickly as possible. And another outcome, another important aspect is the technology readiness index. So technology readiness index indicates how ready you are to embrace new technology, right? So it combines indicators for ICT development, skills, research, and industrial capacity and access to finance. So they combine all these factors and develop this index. And you can see when the readiness index increases, GDP per capita increases. So on the other hand, what we can argue is, if we want to make our exports competitive, we have to make sure that we are ready to embrace the technology. So there's ample evidence to show that there's a relationship. And according to Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which was published in 2025, it says most of the entrepreneurs now think about prioritize social and environmental sustainability. So we have to look at and identify the entrepreneurs who think in these lines, because these are the concepts that are valued in the developed country nowadays, not only developed countries, but all over the world. So 78% of the entrepreneurs said that they want to prioritize social and environmental entrepreneurship behavior. And then other thing is that you can see the share of services in the world exports. Now world is now not only exporting products, but now they are exporting services. So how we can capture this trend, right? So now about 25% of the world exports is services. So that's a huge amount. We can think about different ways, artificial intelligence, robotics, and building information modeling. So all these things can be done, and think about how to improve our services. And finally, I would like to recommend few things to promote international entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. So we understand international entrepreneurship is not just about business. It's so complicated because it is uh, often impacted by political and other environmental factors. So it's not just about taking a decision about a business, but so many factors affect the decision. First recommendation is we have to understand the reality and use the infant industry theory very carefully. So infant industry theory very simply say that domestic industries in developing countries need some protection until they grow to a particular competitive level. So we have tried that one. So I was, when I was involved in footwear committee at Sri Lanka Standard Institute, they imposed a huge tax on shoes or the what we call footwear. It's about 2,000 per pair. And they thought after some time they will release this tax and then our industry would be more competitive and would be having minimum threat from the imports. But about 15 years have passed, but nothing has changed. Our industry still remain uncompetitive. We are still behind the quality. So nothing has happened. So infant industry theory says you have to protect, but for a limited time period. But we have been protecting our industry for so long. Now they are used to this inefficiency. So we have to remove these things. And the other thing that it has done is it has created a huge amount of what we call illegal imports. So because they cannot sell it for the real price, what they do is because of the high taxation, they try to bring the shoes or the footwear from illegal sources. So nothing has happened. So we have to take a decision and remove all this unnecessary protection. We have to say to the industry, we'll give you 5 years, 10 years, you have to come out of the this inefficiency boundary. Second one, we discussed already, we have to diversify our export structure. One opportunity lies in East Asia. Countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Laos, all these countries, we have almost zero free trade agreements. So we have to discuss with them and try to negotiate for a favorable free trade agreement. And also in the Sri Lanka free trade agreement, there's a huge amount of sensitive list, especially there are quotas for our apparel sector. But we know India is growing very fast and their demand for high quality products is increasing. So if we can discuss for a kind of a more lax rules and regulations, probably we will gain immediately. But it cannot be done like that. So for example, we have to be also flexible. We are imposing so much import taxes and then we are asking the other countries to release the taxes. So that cannot be done. So we have to immediately remove this para tariff. That means the taxes on the existing taxes and also any other special taxes as a gesture of goodwill and gain support for the export from foreign countries. So we cannot keep our import taxes very high and ask for export concessions. Immediately we have to do something and make sure that we support the other countries as well. Third one is, I have been saying this one for a long time period. So we need to develop an education system that promotes entrepreneurship and innovation. That cannot be done after A-levels. That cannot be done when the students come to the university. That has to be done from year one. So we did a research taking about 300 students from 5 major schools in Sri Lanka, Colombo district. And they found that, actually we found that students form their entrepreneurial mindset, or students plan for their career in year 6 to year 11. That's where they think about, okay, this is what I want to become. That is where we have to promote entrepreneurship. We have to bring in role models and tell them, look, entrepreneurship is a good option. Entrepreneurship is a lucrative option, not just focus on professional careers. And finally, there are a few more recommendations that we can think of. Especially we have, I mean, you saw how small our percentage in high-tech exports is, about 1%. So if we want to diversify exports, we need to have more science, technology, engineering-based products. So I propose that we develop techno-entrepreneurship in STEM higher education institutes. And also, I believe there should be a financial support scheme for the selected last year undergraduates of STEM colleges and universities to start a business. They should be followed up, they should be given support, and the interest should be at a concessionary rate. And remember that the customers in the developed country are shifting their preferences. Now they prioritize sustainability, ethical sourcing, and authenticity. So then we have to promote social entrepreneurship. We have to identify the entrepreneurs who are sustainable, who think about the what we call the emotional side of business, who try to help the others through their business. So that kind of entrepreneurship we have to identify and promote in our exports. Okay, so that completes my presentation, and thank you so much for listening. And I thank Faculty of Graduate Studies and Professor Ruan Gopura for the wonderful support that you have given. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor D.M. Mudalige, for delivering such an insightful lecture. Now, I would like to invite Senior Professor S.W.S.B. Dasanayake to present the lecture memento to Professor D.M. Mudalige. Additionally, I invite Professor D.M. Mudalige to join us on this memento speech. Many thanks to both of you, Professor. Before we conclude today's proceedings, let's take a moment to extend our sincere gratitude to the event sponsors of today's inaugural lecture. Cargill's Private Limited, our event sponsor, Daily FT, the print media sponsor, Sri Lankan Scientist, the social media sponsor. With that, we conclude the 36th inaugural lecture organized by the Faculty of Graduate Studies at the University of Moratuwa. We deeply appreciate your presence today and look forward to welcoming you back for our 37th inaugural lecture. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a wonderful day.